Little icebreaker here, Teddy. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Cookies and cream.
Yeah?
That's usually my go-to.
I go with cookie dough over here.
Yeah, I'm gonna side with Andy on this one.
Yeah. Mint chocolate chip's pretty basic.
The real debate, which cookie?
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Roll Up. Welcome to a Chain Abstraction Palooza where we just wrapped up an epic one-day marathon in the heart of New York City, diving deep into chain abstraction with some of the top teams in crypto. Trust me, this series is packed with insights, laughs, and a few surprises you won't want to miss. Shout out to Omni Network for helping to put this together with their upcoming mainnet soon, targeting the interoperability and UX problem that we're currently facing in the Ethereum and modular ecosystem. We really enjoyed this series and looking forward to putting all this content out there. Let's jump right into today's episode after a quick word from some of our awesome partners who make this possible.
Vertex Edge is now live on Say Network. Say users can now trade 50 plus spot and perp markets with the unified order book liquidity of Vertex Edge across Arbitrum, Blast, Mantle, and Say. The next 6 weeks, 850,000 Say tokens will be up for grabs as trading rewards every single week, exclusively on Say. Join Vertex on Say Network now on Vertex Edge. That's vertexprotocol.com.
Mantle is a layer 2 blockchain with one of the biggest on-chain treasuries in all of crypto, and they had a 100-day campaign called Metamorphosis live now. What this is it is a campaign for their liquid staked ETH token METH, as well as their upcoming liquid restaking token CMETH, where you can utilize this token on the Mantle network in a variety of different apps, some of your favorite restaking protocols and DeFi protocols, and earn yields in the form of powder, which will eventually be turning into a governance token. Mantle's been around for a while. We like them because they use their own form of EigenDA. They have a good ecosystem and they're growing. So check out this 100-day Metamorphosis campaign and hope you guys enjoy the rest of this video. It's Wednesday. We're in New York City. We have Teddy here. We have Austin from Omni, EigenDA. Teddy, what's going on, guys? Welcome in. Austin, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, Teddy. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Little icebreaker here, Teddy. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Cookies and cream.
Yeah?
That's usually my go-to.
I go with cookie dough over here.
Yeah, I'm gonna side with Andy on this one.
Yeah. Mint chocolate chip's pretty basic.
The real debate, which cookie?
Chocolate chip with salt, though, on top.
Okay.
Well, you wanted a question to warm up, and so did I, and I think it's the first one of our series here, Austin. So we'll get warmed up here, and let's talk about EigenDA. Let's talk about your background real quick. Teddy, how did you get involved with EigenDA, and what's your role there?
So I joined Eigen about a year ago as an engineer. I was working on integrating EigenDA into various roll-up frameworks, and about a month ago, I got moved to product. So I'm currently doing a lot of protocol work and external facing stuff like this. And I guess my background in crypto is by way of engineering, sort of a story that parallels what EigenDA does. I was in tech in 2015 working on stream processing. So this is like Kafka or Kinesis. These are sort of Web 2 technologies that let you build systems in a more functional style. And it's usually used for, boring things like advertising or maybe things that make a lot of money, but
real businesses.
Real businesses, exactly. And I heard about crypto around 2017 and thought it was probably the logical conclusion of where all this stream processing was going. So I got into crypto more from an angle of infrastructure than from finance or sort of more libertarian side. And I think EigenDA is sort of like the logical, extension of that arc, because it turns blockchains into this thing where it actually, it scales horizontally, rather than being this thing that is sort of stateful and often the bottleneck. Maybe we can actually try to end up in a place where we have, scalable, high throughput, just transaction processing. And yeah, that's a bit of background on me. I would love to hear a bit about your guys' background. And
Yeah, I'm actually I'm definitely the libertarian side. Like,
Yeah.
I came into crypto when I was still in university, and I was studying computer science. So definitely the like programming side of things appealed to me, but at the core, it's always been more of kind of like a principles and values thing of why I'm in the space. I'm curious. I don't think we've ever talked about this. Yeah.
I met Robbie, the co-founder of the Rollup, at the Bitcoin Club in 2017, trading Bittrex coins.
Yeah.
And the values appealed to me, and the idea of like online income and like this trading concept. And then I stepped away for a while and then came back in like 2019. So ended up dropping out of school, and crypto was just like, it was too good.
Yeah.
Too good of an opportunity to like start something and build something. So, yeah.
Did you work at any crypto company before Eigen, or did you hop straight into Eigen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in crypto since.
Why that face?
Yeah. What happened?
I mean, it would have been nice. Eigen's definitely been a great job. I was in the Cosmos ecosystem for a year and a half before Eigen.
Got it.
Before that, I was in the validator staking ecosystem.
Okay.
So I got into crypto around 2021, and I guess I could comment on the Cosmos, which is,
Are you a Cosmos chain is the real
kind of
question.
easy to comment on. Am I a Cosmos chain? Like if I were to characterize myself?
Yeah. Actually, that's a great question. Do you identify as
Do I identify? I do not.
Yeah, okay. It's
Yeah,
probably
I
for the
switched
best.
sides.
Yeah,
I transitioned from Cosmos to Ethereum. I worked in Cosmos because I wasn't completely convinced about the roll-up thesis, and this was a way to really
Now
force
you're
it.
doing EigenDA, which is like fully roll-up thesis.
Exactly. I mean, I had to go all the way down into Cosmos,
Yeah.
this sort of app chain thesis to come to that conclusion. But
I mean, what was at the bottom of that? Like, what flipped your thinking on it?
it's just really expensive to run L1s. That's the main thing. It's the economics. So you had interchain security and mesh security in Cosmos, which the startup I was at was called Duality, and our original plan was to launch as a interchain secured L1 with the hub, and we would have been like the third or fourth chain to do it, and it was a governance vote that decided whether we would sort of suddenly be a responsibility for the operator set of Cosmos Hub they'd all have to spin up a new node and pay the infrastructure costs.
Yeah.
And it was turning into a big political battle about whether
This sounds like
Duality
Cosmos,
would
yeah.
return enough value to these operators to even compensate them.
Uh-huh.
And if it wasn't going to launch its own token, then where was that value going to come from in the short term?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, rollups are improvement from the perspective of just unit economics and cost. And yeah, we hope trends like DA extend that.
I view Eigenlayer as a whole as very Ethereum aligned and EigenDA as Ethereum aligned, but there's some people that argue that Eigenlayer is like a competitor to Ethereum in a way, like as they would other DA layers. Like, I'm not gonna make that argument now and put you on the spot for that question, but like the bigger question at hand is if Ethereum continues down this, basically like this DA focused roadmap, like how are you viewing the dynamic of demand and kind of like aligning Ethereum, but also being like this alternative data availability solution? And like, are you concerned about 4844? Are you concerned about low GUI on the L1? Like, how are you thinking about this from the EigenDA perspective now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think most days I wake up and I look at this from the crypto perspective. Like, it would make me very happy if we could scale full stop. Obviously I want EigenDA to succeed, but the reason I work on EigenDA is not because I need it to win, it's because I think it actually is probably the most realistic path to victory when it comes to scaling Ethereum. The amount of engineering that will have to go into dank sharding and expanding 4844 to support the amount of throughput that, for example, EigenDA provides is just massive. It's like on the order of effort of transitioning from proof of work to proof of stake. Like a lot of work, and there's not one right solution. I mean, obviously, Eigen's approach needs to win in the battlefield of ideas, but I do think that time will show that taking an approach that's sort of unified and simpler, and maybe involves modularity a bit more, maybe not like in protocol DA, will probably work out to be the best way.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally have had a ton of questions about Ethereum's business model lately. Like, once we shipped 4844 and the network became inflationary again, I feel like the culture kind of shot itself in the foot by creating this ultrasound money meme, and now it's no longer ultrasound, like it's inflationary again. I think that's caused a lot of people to kind of wonder like what Ethereum L1 is here for.
But it's still like it's still extremely less inflationary than like a typical L1.
Yeah, especially like a Cosmos chain for
Right.
sure.
So like the meme still works.
Yeah,
The supply is still very scarce, I think.
But like in thinking about how I explain ETH compared to Bitcoin to normies, I used to be able to say, well, not only is there like a finite supply,
Right.
it
It's actually going
disappears.
down.
It
Like,
literally
we've reached
goes-
the top and it's going down forever now.
Like it's the first profitable network that decreases supply.
Yeah.
And that would hit with people. But now I'm like, oh, well, it's like I kind of struggle because, and I'm still primarily exposed to Ethereum personally. We'll see if that's like a good idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think the like community, especially the research community, is kind of grasping onto this. Like, how do we pull functionality back into ETH L1 right now?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. Like, if you had to put the EF on the spot and say, what is Ethereum about? Is it about being a settlement layer? Is it about being a DA layer and a settlement layer? Is there some third thing? Is there, a place for on-chain DeFi rather than L2 DeFi?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously can't represent the EF, but I do tend towards the idea that Ethereum should be a settlement layer, first and foremost. I think it's fine to frame it as a B2B chain. I think that's an okay pivot. I don't know what the way to solve this dearth of applications is. I think that's probably the biggest question when it comes to Ethereum right now, and it's the reason we see a lot of anxiety right now. Is like everybody's talking about infra, but where are the users? So yeah, I think Ethereum will figure it out, but yeah, it's always sort of fun being on Twitter and watching the debates rage on a daily basis.
And I think there's even debates within EF researchers themselves. Like, it's not like the EF has a unified position. Like,
Right.
a bunch of different researchers are saying different things, all employed by the EF, let alone other people in the community express.
Welcome aboard on our journey into the singularity. This is the endgame roadmap for Frax and Fractal, the new L2 out of the Frax ecosystem that is totally based on fractal scaling. Fractal is a modular L2 blockchain built by Frax with modular and fractal scaling in mind. Fractal scaling is based on the Mandelbrot set of fractal images, and it explains how L2s become L3s and the entire app chain lifecycle goes through its evolution. The Frax ecosystem is made of some of the top builders in the space and has stemmed from its OG days of the Frax stablecoin. It is now in the LST space, the LRT space, and this Fractal L2 joins the existing suite of Frax products, including Frax Swap and Frax Lend. You can see Frax Ferry, the bridge to go from any chain, Arbitrum, Optimism, or mainnet into the Fractal mainnet. Bridge your tokens and bring your Frax assets into the Fractal ecosystem. Join today to get the best out of Fractal. You are still early. Join today. Take part in our expedition into the singularity.
Everclear is pioneering the clearing layer. The clearing layer can almost be thought of as splitwise when you go on a trip with friends, but for the blockchain. What I mean by that is when users are sending cross-chain messages, there's oftentimes fillers and solvers who have balances left on different chains that they need to rebalance and reset their positions. This is where Everclear comes in. Everclear is pioneering a collaborative approach to the chain abstraction future, and they are willing to work with interoperability partners, solvers, and other providers in the space to build a interoperable and chain abstraction future. Check out Everclear at everclear.org, and welcome back to the rollup.
I think one thing on this note about Ethereum's business model also applies to like these alternative data availability models, which is you need demand for the block space. Like we need to have rollups posting their data to EigenDA for the system to kind of be able to grow its block size and scale and kind of work well. Right now, that's like it's been very small block posting across all data availability providers outside of Ethereum basically now. What's your plans to kind of scale that demand? Are the rollups like Movement, Mega ETH, some other these larger rollups going to play a big part in that? Otherwise, like kind of how are you thinking about growing demand for EigenDA's block space?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think in general we're taking the startup approach of trying to win within a very small niche and grow that niche. And right now that niche, unfortunately, is just high throughput rollups. It shouldn't be that profound to say that rollups should scale and should build new applications that can scale. But if you look at the list of rollups that exist on L2Beat or Conduit's rollup.wtf, most of these rollups are just general purpose rollups and are supporting DeFi applications and aren't requiring a ton of DA throughput. We're working with partners like Mega ETH, Layer N, Celo to try and explore new applications where DA plays a bigger role.
Yeah, like super functional on-chain games or something, or highly expressive data-based applications or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think we have a bit of a narrative problem within the Ethereum L2 and L3 ecosystem, especially around Validiums and these optimistic rollups that use DA or Alt-DA, because Alt-DA does enable like greater than Solana levels of throughput for L2s and L3s.
Yeah.
I think Solana kind of owns the narrative around high throughput blockchains.
Yep.
Yeah.
We think that's going to change.
Especially if you get the EVM out of there as well. Like I love the EVM, it's been great, but you put SVM, MoveVM, different types of Rust-based VMs in there with Alt-DA,
Totally.
It's like you're just pushing throughput.
Exactly. Improvements in the VM definitely unblock things. But in general, though, I don't think the VM has been the bottleneck as much as DA.
For sure.
The first bottleneck is DA. The second is compute, and probably the third is state growth. And if you can sort of figure out those problems.
That's Solana's big problem now.
Yeah.
Fuel is doing some cool stuff for state growth kind of prevention, but those are the three big kind of bottlenecks that you're seeing, and you think that basically the biggest one that is solvable now is by something like EigenDA or the DA solution.
Yeah. I mean, you do want to unblock just the sheer number of bits of transactions you can process. Let's imagine transfer transactions. The transfer itself is not a terribly computationally expensive thing. It's actually mostly I/O. It's you have maybe on the order of tens of bytes that represent a single transaction. If you want to get 100,000 TPS, it's going to be DA that bottlenecks that, not compute. So yeah, I think we're in this era where we have to induce the demand by working with applications that are willing to really lean on Alt-DA rather than sort of think of it as a way of future-proofing themselves.
Cartesi is your home for app-specific rollups. At the forefront of developing new tools and platforms that enhance the capabilities of blockchain technology, Cartesi enables applications that are flexible and built to scale. build on a full Linux environment and use traditional software libraries, but in blockchain development. Go to cartesi.io, that's cartesi.io, to learn more about building your own app chain today.
Covalent is solving the long-term data availability problem where a lot of the data availability providers today in the modular space, when you post data to them, they actually only hold that data for about 12 to 16 days. And then it's basically, it could go into an archive node, or oftentimes it's just kind of put away into the abyss. And what Covalent's trying to do is build this long-term data availability solution, which can plug into some of these modular data availability providers and provide this longer-term perpetual data solution. So what we try to think of this as is when you post transaction data onto Celestio or Veil or any of these modular DA solutions or even Ethereum, Covalent is able to provide a long-term data storage and data availability platform for that data after the time period. Blockchains are billboards, not databases, and we need these providers in the space to be able to kind of hold on to the long-term data that is provided from these providers and these blockchain state. This is where Covalent comes in. They just had a nice rebrand. Check them out on Twitter as well as the website. Thank you for being here. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
One thing that I'd love to ask you as well is, I know you're more focused on the infrastructure and actually building EigenDA, but imagining EigenDA is very widely deployed and it's very easy to spin up a rollup. Given that we're talking a lot about chain abstraction, do you have any thoughts on in a world where EigenDA is adopted at scale, what does that look like from a user experience, hopping between all these different rollups? And do they even need to think about hopping across all these different rollups, or does it kind of just work out of the box? And I guess a follow-up question there, anything with EigenDA specifically facilitating a nice experience of migrating between those? I know it's a wide question, but curious to hear your kind of general take on it.
Yeah, there have been some ideas around that in general. I tend to be a bit of a, I tend to apply Occam's razor to it, or maybe that's an analogy for how I would explain it. I don't think DA has much to do with interoperability beyond trust assumptions. So let's look at Optimism's superchain. Mm-hmm. They have these this concept of interop sets, where they're going to, where you have multiple rollups that share a sequencer and a settlement contract and system, where that enables rollups within that interop set to bridge really fast between them, so they don't have to wait that 7-day window. The question is, does any given interop set want to adopt the security assumptions of a given DA layer? So if there's an interop set that uses Ethereum for DA, if they were to use EigenDA as well, that would be an additional assumption, where the weakest assumption is the one that sort of defines the security of the system. And so it turns more into a security and maybe governance problem of which exact DA layers are associated with which interop sets. This is something that other rollup stacks are also working on, not just Optimism. Mm-hmm. I think that is going to be somewhat relevant, but my hope is that in the future, that while it's abstract away most of this,
I feel like
it's still an infrastructure concern. Yeah. You still have fast bridges to send fungible assets really fast, and I think the cost for those is going to go down even more. So I'm not too worried.
So you believe in this broader vision of abstracting away chains and different complexities like gas and bridging and things. You think this is something that's going to happen?
Oh, 100%.
On a certain spectrum of what the user wants, right?
Yeah.
Certain users may want to know different things about where their assets are, but.
Yeah. I think of it on the internet, we don't really have location. Everything is everywhere, and there's no concept of locality. But obviously in crypto, your assets can be in a specific place. Yeah. If you're a financial institution, you might want to have a very nuanced policy for how our assets manage and where they get located, and exactly what security is used for moving them around. I think consumers And most businesses are probably going to adopt some sort of standard policy around that. And you can use, I think in the future, intent-based bridging and these wallets that offer account abstraction and all these sort of batteries included services that make it really simple to use, and it's just opinionated.
I've heard it's like the intents protocols can set certain constraints for what the users of of that solver network can do, and also the apps can set certain parameters for what the users can do or are willing to do. So you can basically opt in to a set of, okay, you're gonna opt into this solver network who solves across Base, Optimism, and Arbitrum, because that's only chains that you're comfortable with. Or you can do so you can opt into long tail solver networks, or kind of more legitimate solver networks. And I think that's an interesting take, and also particularly how you're thinking about it with regards to teams using EigenDA and the roll-up clusters. I think there's a lot of alignment there with a lot of people building in the space, and I just feel it feels far away. But speaking to a lot of these teams, I think it's actually Q3, Q4 here we get some of this chain abstraction type stuff coming online. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like it's more like Q4 this year, Q1, that we'll see some of the first projects that have been talking a lot about this, shipping things prod, where it's oh, this is a noticeably
this
better
works.
experience.
Yeah, I don't need to use Rabby anymore. This is awesome.
Yeah. And one thing that I'm curious to hear from you as well, given how cheap transactions could be for rollups that are using EigenDA, one thing I'm really excited about is the opportunity for just devs to pay gas costs. So that people can do stuff on a rollup or a chain and just through a paymaster or some other mechanism, just have the gas costs be sponsored. Maybe this is gaming, maybe this is social or something. Is this something you and the team talk about at all as you're looking at rollup customers? Because this, I think, would allow us to actually hit fully abstracted, you can just sign in with Google or Face ID or whatever, and you don't have to think about gas costs. That to me is pure chain abstraction.
Gas and multi-chain, I think, is the two big ones right now.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you have some kind of Sybil resistance, you can do that, right?
It's anti-spam.
Yeah. I mean, from our perspective, it's the rollup paying us anyway. So how the rollup collects fees is sort of up to them. But that would be awesome. I think it would be great, and that's kind of the experience people expect with the internet.
Yeah, I think it's a cool opportunity because it's similar to people don't get charged to open a website. The devs pay AWS. It's not like the users pay AWS. But any final questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to zoom out here a bit outside of the technicals, outside of this modular landscape, and just kind of talk about what it's like working in crypto. I mean, you've been part of crypto for a couple years, various teams, specifically now, Eigenlayer, EigenDA being one of the most high-profile teams in the space, right? You guys have accomplished quite a bit. There's been a lot of hype, a lot of narrative driven, and then recently there's been scrutiny. There's always going to be scrutiny. What is it like being on a team that's high-profile that deals with these ups and downs, and kind of what is it like to work through public scrutiny and this type of experience?
It's been great for the most part. I mean,
that's good. Yeah.
It hasn't been too arduous from the perspective of the perception of Eigen. I think we have great leadership and some of the best minds in crypto research at Eigen, and I just love working with them. I think that crypto does need to continually reinvent itself. I mean, this is how we're going to succeed, I think. And to the extent that there's scrutiny and accountability in this space, I think that's a good thing. I mean, that's why we claim to be better on a technical level. These sort of open ledgers are better because they let, they ensure at least that there's no corruption. And in the case of public blockchains, there's, you can do audits and things like that. So I fully support the idea that Eigen is sort of held to the exact same standard as everybody else, and I really like I really like working at Eigen.
I would say higher. Specifically on the restaking side, the standard is higher because of the nature of the project. You know, like the meme where it's like, this project can shape the fabric of society or whatever. It's like this project could actually be a big detriment to Ethereum's consensus if things don't go well.
Right.
And so on that side, the level of accountability and responsibility is higher, right, than a lending market or a DEX or something, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have to kind of be able to internalize that. With regards to the most recent scrutiny, I mean, if you don't want to comment, you don't have to comment on it, but is the team's morale in check, and are you guys putting that behind you and able to move forward just as you were?
I probably shouldn't comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, good to see you again, man.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Cool.